Hi guys, hope you're well. Today we're going to brew a Hoppy Irish Red Ale. I love it, people love it. I'm going to show you my recipe and method to brew it. It's going to be amazing. I've got my recipe here, all my ingredients from my malt and hops to my yeast, and I've got the Grainfather all set up and connected for this awesome brew session. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to condition my malt before I mill it. Malt conditioning is the process of adding a small amount of moisture to your malt before crushing it. The moisture softens the husks on the malted barley, which allows for more of the husk to pass through and mill intact, while the endosperm still is cracked and exposed. More intact husks allow for better draining of the mash, so this reduces your chances of stuck sparges, and you can also crush finer to increase conversion efficiency without shredding the husks. So what do we know about the style Irish Red Ale? It's been described as an easy drinking pint, often with subtle flavours. Slightly malty in the balance, sometimes with an initial soft toffee caramel sweetness, a slightly grainy biscuity palate, and a touch of roasted dryness in the finish. Some versions can emphasise the caramel and sweetness more, while others will favour the grainy palate and roasted dryness. Let's take a quick look at our fermentables, our hops and our yeast to see what each adds to an Irish Red Ale. We begin with our base malt. I'm using 3.8 kg of Simpson Morris Otter. Now, Morris Otter has a low nitrogen content and high extract, producing a rich malty flavour with exceptional brewhouse performance and beer clarity, making it a perfect base malt for an Irish Red Ale. I'll then add 810 grams of Cara Amber. So I'm using Wireman's Cara Amber, which I believe is a drum roasted caramel malt made from 2-row German barley that can be used to improve flavour stability, fullness and enhance colour. This malt is going to help us achieve that full red colour as well as better mash efficiency. It also imparts flavours of toffee, caramel and red. Next, the recipe calls for 220 grams of rye malt. Now, this malt is often overlooked and not commonly used in an Irish Red. I've tried a few Irish Reds with rye and I quite like them. I'm only using about 5% of rye malt in this recipe. Rye malt has a unique spicy rye flavour. It can also help build flavour and develop complexity in many beer styles, from medium flavoured ales to dark ales. It performs well in a single temperature infusion mash if used at less than 20% of the total grist. I'm also going to add 60 grams of roasted barley. Now, in addition to the Cara Amber, this is the key malt for a red ale and is added in very small quantities for colouring. It's the roast barley, not the black patent malt or chocolate malt, that gives an Irish Red its traditional deep red colour. Now moving on to our hops. Generally we use Fuggles and East Kent Goldings for an Irish Red. My additions include 27 grams of Fuggles at 60 minutes, this is for bittering, 14 grams of East Kent Goldings at 30 minutes and another 14 grams at 15 minutes. Now, what gives this particular Irish Red a contemporary kick is the addition of 50 grams of Citra for dry hopping. So for the yeast, because Irish Red is a malt forward style, I have found that S04 actually accentuates the maltiness and imparts a roundness to the malt flavour that's just perfect for this style. So that's my choice for this one. Now, if you want to pitch a liquid yeast, you could make up a starter using either Y Yeast 1084 Irish Ale or White Labs 004 Irish Ale yeast. Now, the best water to use and what I recommend is either filtered water, reverse osmosis water or bottled water. If you're going to use tap water, that's fine. I do from time to time, but I always use Candom tabs to remove chlorine, and I also then use phosphoric acid to lower my pH. Now guys, for a few numbers on this one. This is a 23 litre batch on the Grainfather. Brew house efficiency is calculated at approximately 72% with a mash efficiency of about 75%. Our OG is 1.045, FG is 1.011. That's going to give us an ABV of around 4.6%. EBC 28, IBU just around 24. We're looking for more of a malt forward ale, so hence the IBU being low. We'll be doing a step mash with a mash in of about 55 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes. We'll ramp that up to our first rest for 65 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes, then take that up to 72 degrees Celsius for a second rest. That'll be for 25 minutes, and then at the end we'll perform a mash out for 10 minutes at 77 degrees Celsius. Somebody give that man a pint. Okay, so I got my grains all ready to go. As you can see, they're quite dry and brittle, so we condition those now. Now I use a fine mist sprayer to spray the top of the grains, and then I grab my spoon and I just give that a mix around. Now the weight of the water should equal 2% of the weight of the malt. So that's me all done. I just sprayed in batches, and this is ready now to be milled. I've been milling this by hand and my arm is nearly about to come off. I borrowed the mill from my friend John, and I don't have the right bit for a drill. This is my rye malt, which I need to mill a bit finer. And here we have the final product, my conditioned, then milled malt. Much better. So you can clearly see here we have more intact husks. It's going to help drainage and certainly improve our efficiency. So for my strike water, I require 16.7 litres, and add in my filter. And I got my Grainfather app all set up and ready to go here. Just pop in my pipe work. Yeah, I'll be treating my water. I went down to get some bottled water and I got sidetracked and came back with beer. So I have to use tap water. When using tap water, I always try and get my pH down to about 5.5. Add grains. Okay, sweet. The end of January, it's that time I like to make Irish Red Ale. Drink Irish Red Ale. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one with the addition of the rye. Call this one Rye Keens Red. Whoa, that's dusty. I always take my time when mashing in, just to ensure that all the grain has mixed as well as it can with the water. So I'm never really rushing this phase. Taking my time. Right, so that's me done doughing it. On with the grain plate. Yeah. Look. Take you out. Okay, so remember this is a step mash, as I mentioned. Trying to remember my figures. 55 degrees Celsius for 10, and 65 for 40, 72 for 25, and then mash out at 77 for 10 minutes. Get that bad boy mashing. Before I sit down and have a beer, I get my sparge water ready. So I need for my sparge, what was it, I need 15.21 litres, I think. So this kettle I created using an element and connected that then to the old box from the Grainfather. So this, guys, is Wildfire Hoppy Red Ale from Wicklow Wolf here in Ireland, and it's basically the beer which inspired me to do my own Hoppy Red Ale recipe. And I'm going to have this beer right now. All my nice pint glasses are in the wash, so I'm going to use a take-a glass for this one. I'm going to be talking shortly with John Allen, production manager from Wicklow Wolf, on this video. That's going to be an interesting one. Stay tuned. So I just want to check in on the mash, and that's looking nice. Yeah, nice colour. As I said, we're going through a step mash here. But yeah, all looking good. All looking good. So John, I'm a big fan of Wicklow Wolf Brewery and your beers, and recently I was enjoying your Wildfire Hoppy Red Ale and loved that beer. And it inspired me to brew my own version of a Hoppy Red Ale, which is what led me to do this Brewday video for YouTube. John, for my viewers who may not know Wicklow Wolf Brewery, can you tell us a little bit about the story behind the brewery?
Yeah, so Wicklow Wolf was started 6 years ago now by two guys, Simon and Quincy, both of whom live in Wicklow but spent time in the States, a couple of years living in the States. So once they lived in the States and they moved back to Wicklow, they were kind of dismayed with the beer selection in Ireland at the time. Haven't been used to American craft beer, so they decided to open their own brewery, as you do. So that was the inception of Wicklow Wolf, and started their first brewery in Bray, in the middle of the town. After a number of years, and the brewery being pretty successful, they went to look for a new site, and we moved into a brand new facility up here in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, about a year and a half ago, which is a purpose-built building. 35 hectoliter brew kit, so it's a decent size, and it's fully automated. It's a great Browcon setup, so it's fully automated brew house, great cellar, good packaging equipment, centrifuge, lots of nice toys like that. So it's really allowed us to make our beers even better, and more importantly, more consistent.
As a graphic designer myself, John, I love how Wicklow Wolf have cleverly named and packaged its various categories of beers, from its core range, Alpha Pack, to its extinct range and everything in between. Tell us a little bit more about these beers.
Yeah, so we've broken up our kind of range of beers into various categories. We have our core range beer, which every brewery has, and that's kind of the bread and butter of the brewery. But within that, we've paid a lot of in our recent rebrand. We've also taken the opportunity to redo a lot of the recipes, update them, make them more impactful, or maybe completely change out a beer or two here or there, to really roll with the impact of the new branding, the new brewery, and also new beers and new recipes. So all of our core range beers are kind of developed with that mindset in mind. Then for our extended range into our crossbreed series, which is our collaborative series of beers, and then we have our endangered species. So our crossbreed allows us to meet up, and we used to meet up, but now we do it remotely like everything else, and collaborate with other brewers in Ireland and abroad. I've been lucky to work with a lot of brewers all over the world. So
The collaboration is fantastic to have with those particular beers, and I've certainly tried a few of your collaborations, and they've just been absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's one of my favorite things to do, because even within the brewery, we'll do it. You talk with as a group, as brewers, and ideas start to bounce around one another, and it's exciting, it's fun, and things that you wouldn't think of kind of come up. But when you do that with people from other breweries, and they're always friends nearly, the people you've known through the industry, so it's good fun. But like the creativity that inspires is fantastic. And then you get, well, again, they used to come to the brewery, and they will in the future. But you get to have someone come to the brewery for the day. You hang out, you brew the beer, you go for a few beers afterwards. It's not a bad way to spend a day. And usually that kind of enthusiasm and creativity shines through in the beer at the end. And, there's people, you want to make a good beer for yourself, but more so you want to make a good beer for your friend or someone, a friend in the industry, and you want to make them look good. You want to represent them well. And then with our endangered species range, that's just more of our experimental range. So we just gone at the end of last year, we took the opportunity, with the cold, dark winters coming in, we did an awful lot of dark beers and stouts and different plays in that, pastry stouts and different things like that, in both our collaborative side of things and in the limited editions. And for me as a brewer, I love making dark beers, and we kind of really lent into the winter, and we just stuck with it. We didn't really do any IPAs or anything like that. We just did dark beer, and really it's a great opportunity to start honing that side of our skills, because you can't really do it all year round like you can with other styles.
Yes.
No one really wants a 12% stout in the middle of May.
No.
Some people do, hardcore people, but not everyone.
Maybe me. John, the craft beer industry, both here at home and on a global scale, has faced some tough times over the last year. What positives and visions do you have for Wicklow Wolf for 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, so 2020 was definitely not the year we envisaged, just much like everyone else. For us, it was a year where we were really going to focus on export. So, a new brewery gave us an opportunity to have greater capacity, and therefore expand our our reach out into Europe and beyond. And we just started to do that. So obviously that got really shut down this year. But in 2021, as things open up, we're hoping to take advantage of that again. But it's the same challenges, that have a lot of breweries and most breweries around the world are going to face, is that losing that share of their market. But I think with that, the positive will be there'll be a massive appetite for craft beer from all over the world, both import and export. I think every brewery will have an opportunity within this kind of tough time to come back maybe just as strong, if not a bit stronger. Not to say that there won't be challenges, but I think when you work in an industry that's very creative, and has had to roll with the punches, in various different ways across the world and different challenges, it's very versatile. The people within the craft brewing industry are very, very versatile and know how to take a negative and turn it into a positive. But ultimately, most people in the world who drink beer want to drink great beer. So, if you're making great beer and you have the reach into the markets where people want your beer, and then that's what you need to focus on, and that's what we need to think forward to, and not really get bogged too much down where we are right now. Just kind of grin and bear it, get through it, but with the knowledge that when we get out of this the other side, people want to drink good beer, people want to go to pubs, people want to go to tap rooms, and people ultimately, especially here in Ireland, want to support small businesses that are trying to do different and do something that's a bit fun and creative. That's a great thing to see.
Yeah. And that's a very positive vision that you do have. I foresee myself some form of boom happening with the craft beer industry when we all come out of this. John, I won't keep you any longer, and I really appreciate your time on the video. And best of luck to you and all the guys up there in Wicklow Wolf. And thanks a million again, John. And I hope when things kind of pass over, hopefully this year, I get the opportunity to actually come up and see you in person and get to look at your amazing facilities up there.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm sitting in our building side of a tap room at the minute, but it's something that we're working on. So hopefully when restrictions are lifted, we can welcome lots of people into the brewery. They can have a beer in a nice kind of setting and overlook the brewery and see what we're about and meet us and talk to us. It'll be it'll be a nice change of pace from what we've had to do for the last year.
Fantastic. There's certainly one thing on my bucket list now for 2021. John, thanks so much again, and have a good year.
You too, mate.
So a great conversation there with John Allen, production manager from Wicklow Wolf. Very insightful stuff. Thanks very much, John, for that. Back to our mash, and our clarity is looking super clear on this one. That's great. My kettle temp is almost ready to go sparging. Now, which of these bad boys should I go for? Stick to the script. Okay, so the mash is doing its thing in the background. I've taken off my mic. I'm now on the camera mic because I've decided to have some time out. I've poured myself a new beer. This is a New England IPA which I made mid-December for Christmas, and I didn't finish it all because I made so much beer. The aroma on this one, yeah, it's a little bit lost as expected. It was fairly intense mid to end of December, so that's dropped out. The colour has certainly changed. It's not as it's not as orange or yellowy as it once was. However, it's kind of kept well too. But the flavour, flavour's fantastic. It's still quite hoppy. Anyway, I should probably get back to work. Or maybe I'll savour this a little bit longer. Okay, get this wireless mic back on me. We are almost done with our mash out here, so we can get this prepped now for sparging shortly. Wow, wow, wow. Just look at the colour of this wort. Super, super red. That's exactly what I was hoping. Okay, we get our grain bin out. We get going with our sparging shortly. So we're motoring along. So for our sparge water we need 15.2 litres, and I have put in my Camden tablet and I have lowered my pH. Anyone new to home brewing, sparging is the pouring of hot liquor or brewing water onto our mash to rinse out residual sugars. It's an essential part to achieving desirable efficiency of sugar extraction. So I just sparge 1 litre at a time and use the Grainfather sparge tracker just to keep progress. Successful sparging requires careful matching of inflow and outflow, as too fast or too slow a sparge will result in either an overflow or a dry mash. We want neither. I have looked into a few different techniques and approaches when it comes to sparging on the Grainfather. This is my preferred method. Any of you guys watching who use the Grainfather and you sparge a different way, any advice or tips or equipment you might share with us down in the comments below. We're getting there though. We are at 15 litres here. Now generally I don't push forward the last volume of water in the sparge cracker until it kind of drains as much as it can, because sometimes the boil can start too soon. So I'll take off my top perforated plate, just let that drain a little bit more. So I can advance you forward. Now I can move my grain bin, drop you in there. One thing I do is I do get rid of this protein build-up on top of the grain fodder. I don't know where I read it, but certainly something I do each time before my boil. Just scoop off as much on the top. Ugh. Okay. Now prep my hops, my Fuggles and East Kent Goldings. Then add my large hop spider. 16-minute addition. That's my Fuggles gone in. We have 27 grams there, and that's at 60 minutes. Give them a bit of a whiz around in the hop spider. Lovely smell. I always find the sound of a boil during brew day quite therapeutic and relaxing. Now, I know a lot of you probably have one of these yokes. This is a vacuum sealer, and I use it for my vacuum hops. So get down. We just put in our vacuum bag, set that to seal the base. That's me sealed at the bottom, and then I can pop in my hops. This is the best part. Shake them down, put it back in then to seal and vacuum. This is the best part. Yeah. And we're done. If you don't have one, you should get one. Vacuumed and ready for the freezer. Okay, so this is my 30-minute hop additions, 14 grams of East Kent Goldings. Yeah, and I just give them a bit of a stir around in the hop spider. And our last boil addition. Right, so I have just sanitized my fabulous Grainfather conical fermenter, and I've added my wort chiller, and I'm connected all that up, set it up, and we're ready to shortly transfer our wort from our Grainfather. Before I do, I'm going to add this hop net at the top of the Grainfather conical fermenter. I do this all the time. Do I recommend it? I do, absolutely. It's just one of those long hop nets, and I just attach that then, or fix it to one of the side clips here on the conical fermenter. And of course, just making sure anything I touch is sanitized, and pop that now into the conical fermenter. Oh, I need to insert my thermometer into the wortometer here. Great gadget. you go. The wortometer is used in conjunction with the Grainfather Connect control box thermometer for accurate control of your wort transfer temperature through the Grainfather counterflow chiller. You can avoid long lag times and off flavors with this gadget. So I'm now pumping my wort through the counterflow chiller at about 20 degrees Celsius, and that shouldn't take too long to fill up the Grainfather conical fermenter. Now I just want to check my counterflow flow rate and just make sure that the hop net isn't filling up. That can happen from time to time. That's fine. So that's all looking good. I also want to do a off-camera gravity reading. Yeah. Okay. I want to rehydrate my yeast, so I've boiled water, cooled down to 37 degrees Celsius. Pour in my dried yeast on top. Then just mix around slowly. Get my tin foil over the top, leave that for about 10 minutes. Later, we can take off our tin foil, give that a little bit of a mix around. Now I'll always aerate the wort before I put in the yeast. So I just give that a good old jab with a sanitized paddle. Good old jab. Get as much foam going as possible. Then pop in my yeast. Nice one. And now that brings my brew day to a close. So we have a stepped fermentation on this one. 18 degrees Celsius for 4 days, 20 degrees Celsius for 2 days, 22 degrees Celsius for 2 days, and then 2 degrees Celsius for 4 days cold crash. And we'll come back to it then. I have to dry hop, obviously, the Citra. So guys, I'm going to leave that ferment now for the next week or two, and I will be doing a taste test of this, hopefully fabulous Hoppy Irish Red Ale in my next video. My next video will be a foodie episode, but stay tuned, it's an interesting one. Guys, remember, it is important that if you like these videos, just to take a second to give me a thumbs up. And if you want to get more access to content like this, remember to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and cheers guys. Let's go!